All right, so we'll get started just with introductions of our wonderful panelists. So if you all could share your name, pronouns if you'd like, and if you want to talk about the work that you do within your organization.
So I'm going to start off and invite everyone to stand up since you've been probably sitting all day. So my name is Yvette de los Reyes Coronado. I use she, her, and they pronouns. I'm both Asian and Latine, specifically Filipina and Salvadoran. And Guatemalteca también, pero es also Guatemalan. And I do nature and movement therapy with folks. What is that? I'm out in green spaces in the water, hiking, moving, because I'm very hyper. I like moving around, and I love dancing, so I'm also often moving. And I found out that I was hardly using my office, and decided to just be out in the parks nearby, so I just gave up my office. Another big part of my work, actually, that's now predominantly my work, is working with immigration attorneys. And I've been working with them since 2016, and really appreciated the work that I got to do with them. Basically, immigration attorneys send them over to me, and I get to hear their stories and sit with them for about 3 hours, sometimes more, sometimes a little less. I notice the men tend to be a little bit more, machismo and don't show vulnerability. But when we just kind of relax and start laughing together, it's been really nice. So I write reports. I wrote my notes for today. I'm very type A. And we present 10, 20-page reports to prove asylum for folks, extreme hardship for families, because I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, very systems-oriented. And what else? Prove asylum, extreme hardship, and also work with people who've been trafficked and a crime that's committed against them. So, needless to say, it's amazing work, and I am often out dancing all night to get it all out. Thanks for listening, and thanks for standing with me.
We can sit down. My name is Hector Vasquez, and I work here at VCU as a peer recovery specialist. I attended this 3 years ago as someone who was invited by Erin, who taught the course that I took, and somehow or another I was hired by VCU. I'm originally from New York. I'm just blown away by the community that I live in, the people that I work with. I'm always a really good listener. I love advocating for them. I love that they helping them to reach their goals. It's a wonderful thing to be able to listen to what people really say and think about themselves, and to try to encourage them not to be so harsh on themselves, to see that there's a better life, that they can reach their goals if that's what they want. And I'm always appreciative to Tom and to Lauren and to Omri, who have shown me a lot of the skills that I've picked up, because I come from a 12-step program. I've been abstinence by the grace of God since May 26th of 2007. That's the community that I've lived in since then. I just love helping people, because I've been helped. I've been shown that there's a new way of living, a different way of living, of encouraging each other, helping each other. It's just a wonderful life. It really is. And that's all I have. Thank you.
What do you do here?
I work
as a peer recovery specialist.
Oh, okay. I'm just being metiche. I'm just being nosy. Apparently, I cleared the room. Oh, okay, qué bueno. Apparently, I cleared the room. So, for you guys tuning in to episode 2, I'm Lily Spurgeon, not to be confused by a white girl. I was married to a white man, and so I inherited that last name. And I do, what do I do? I'm like, where am I at today? So I'm the program coordinator for the UNM Collegiate Recovery Center, the University of New Mexico. I'm also the marketing outreach director for the New Mexico Peer Coalition and Soul Recovery Cafe, and also board chair, so I have power. Just kidding. And I just do a bunch of random stuff. I also facilitate soul recovery, or soul. We gotta stop with this whole soul thing. Like, oh my God, no more soul things. Soul Circle, which is a BIPOC community, recovery community that's facilitated or put on by VCU, and that's how I got connected to here, because New Mexico and Virginia are not very close. It's not a very easy bus drive over here. What else do? I do a bunch of different advisory boards. I'm metiche. I'm kind of nosy. I want to know why. I want to know why are we doing this, and let's change it. So that's where I do. I'm also a mom. I'm also a partner. He's gonna kill me for not remembering him. Shit. Thank you.
It's hard to follow that up. I'm Tiana Vasquez. I work for the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. I am the Revive Program Coordinator, and Revive is the state's opioid overdose naloxone education program. So we have thousands of trainers that I look over. Actually, they take care of me. The program is nothing without everybody else. I'm just here to answer emails, make sure the slides, coming out with more material to hand out, taking in, doing focus groups, to make sure that, hey, everything that we're putting out there, it's relevant. Why not talk to the people that are out there actually doing the trainings, actually talking to the people. So yeah, it's pretty fun. And my grandparents are from Puerto Rico and El Salvador. And to get a mix of that, you have to be from like Jersey or New York, because that's where everybody just comes together. So yeah, I eat pupusas and pernil and arroz con gandules on the holidays. So yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Baez Salazar. I am the community health worker at Health Brigade. I serve as a bridge with all of our different departments. We're a nonprofit organization that does primary care, mental health. We do outreach, comprehensive harm reduction. I kind of serve as that person to connect the community to different programs depending on what they need. I'm from the Dominican Republic, and I'm actually a student in the fall at VCU for social work.
All right, thank you all. So our first question to get started, and whoever wants to have the mic can start us off. How do you incorporate honoring Latine values in the services that you provide?
Oh, how do I?
It's a big question.
Say that one more time.
How do you incorporate honoring Latine values in
What
the
was
services?
number 3? Okay, so, well, first acknowledging like the influence of. So I'm also on both sides of my upbringing as am indigenous, but the indigenous ancestry and also the African ancestry that weaves into all the different countries, and then also how I keep in the back of my mind how these values also are rooted in like the history of conquest and colonization, because if we don't do that, it's hard, it's easy to start to judge and be I guess thinking like, oh, this is too traditional or whatever. So as far as incorporating it, I first find out where they're at. you know, like this first generation American, so I'm first generation on my mom's side, second on my dad's, to find out how they're speaking. So if someone's sharing their story, like the first thing I ask is like, what's your story? You know, where's your family from? You know, why did you come to the United States? What was that like? And then when you're listening to somebody, I love like looking at them and hearing their story like when I dance or when I watch other dancers, I listen to their whole story, like they're watching the whole person dancing. And then sometimes you get into the little details of their movements. And then I try to look past what they're saying and notice what's happening with the resonance in my body, what's happening in their, you know, what we call the mental status examination. Like it's actually kind of helpful, like to find out what's happening with their eye contact, whether their eyes are getting wider or a little bit. So just really listening to that, but understanding all these parts is what they value as a family, as a culture, in their community, and you know, individualism versus the collectivism is important. But as far as like specific values, I really have to remember, you know, coming from the queer community and very radical, understanding when I'm sitting with, I guess more with immigrant families, that I have to understand that there's a specific way of being sometimes for certain families, the hierarchical stuff, the gender roles, and really trying to throw away my stuff and just ground to the earth, to the cosmos, clear my mind, and just be open. Because if I start to do this whole thing and like be all like in my head about, oh my God, is she always cooking? Is she happy? You know, like, so being really careful about that. And then I remember hearing like a whole thing about like primero Dios, like first God. And I'm just like, at first, when I first heard that years ago or decades ago, I was like, oh my God, really, like this whole fatalistic idea of what's gonna happen. It's all predetermined. But there's something to it, and like knowing how to expand my mind and kind of seeing through everyone else's eyes and their experience, and really honoring that has been super helpful. So I think just being super clear about who and what's happening with as little projection as possible. Yeah, that's my.
Can you hear me? Yeah. I live in this community. I've lived all of my life in a Hispanic community, because that's really what we were known as. We were known as Hispanics, because Hispanics, basically, it's every Latin, every Spanish-speaking country. You know, I think if our mothers didn't invent stress, they certainly patented it. You know, it's the tension that you live on, you know, that you live under, that takes and allows you to see it in another person. It's living in a community in which you're somehow you're different, but somehow you're the same. I came here when I was 5 years old from the Dominican Republic, and grew up never seeing other Dominicans until I was in my teens. There was a lot of other Spanish speaking people that we grew up with, but it's being able to feel things that you've gone through, that people that you're working with are going through. It's something. It's like it's very, very hard to explain what it's like to sit across from someone who's going through something that you've been through, and how you got through it. And you know, it's really, really difficult to explain to someone who hasn't grown up or been around, you know, a total Hispanic community, what it's like to take and to know, to just be on the same wavelength as that person. And you know, I'm 69 years old, and I've worked with kids that are 20 years old, and I know what they're feeling, because I felt that when I was 20. And it's just being able to identify what they're going through, and trying to help them to see that there's a better way of living and a better way of doing things. You know, encouraging them to take and to be their very, very best self. And I think that's how I reach out to people, you know, because I'm just so grateful that we eat really good food.
Arroz y habichuelas. Yeah. Yeah. My first boyfriend was Puerto Rican. That was good food. Anyways, oops. Mondongo. Yeah, exactly. We're over here sharing food. How I show my Latinidad in the work I do.
How you incorporate.
How I incorporate it.
Honoring Latin values, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's no incorporating it. I mean, I can't strip my Latinidad from me. I mean, it's like I'm just brown as I am. Like, vengo de Mexico, soy, you know, I'm from Mexico. Well, born and raised, you know, in New Mexico, and there's like, no matter how much I scrub my skin, there is no way I can take it off. And so it's like, I'm either fight against it or I just show up and be like, you may not resonate with everything I'm saying, but I know there's parts that you will connect with. And by being authentic, by being very intentional with even everything that, from how I dress to how I approach things. I had red socks on today, and that's not by mistake. Red socks are grounding me. Red is a power color for Mexicans, for Latinos. Like, I'm wearing this shirt because it has my colors of my Latinidad. It's representative of who I am. It's like, granted, I do like capitalism a little, you know, Gucci purse, but that's a whole different story. Right? But at the same time, like, what's my comfort food? Arroz y frijoles y una tortilla. Like, rice, beans, and a fresh tortilla. That is my comfort food. If I'm feeling sick, that's what I go to. So why would I not show that same compassion, openness, curiosity towards others?
I'm just hungry now. Yeah, I'm gonna call my mom, tell her to cook some. Yeah, come over. So as as the Revive coordinator for the Commonwealth, culture shock, definitely. So little background, and I'll pull this all in. I moved down to Chesterfield in 2007, freshman in high school, and that was fun. My first day of school, I cried when I got home. Mom was like, "What happened?" And she was like, "What's the matter with you?" And I'm like, "Well, Ma, you know, I was just so scared." She goes, "What were you scared of? Did somebody do something or what?" And I said, "I've never seen so many white people in my life." I was scared, you know. I grew up in Jersey and Elizabeth, which is, you know, New York-like, and, you know, everyone's from everywhere. I had a lot of Haitian friends. I had a lot of Rican friends, Portuguese, you know, nobody was just white. Like, I didn't know what that was, you know. That was something that I had to learn. And when it came to identity, it wasn't hard because I was proud. First of all, I'm half Rican, which is basically 80% because the pride that Puerto Ricans have are ridiculous. You will know my car because there will be a flag. But it's, yeah, and Daddy Yankee, well, he's doing gospel now, and I still blast him. It's good. I'm gonna put you on. Jesus saves. I mean, you could do a slight one, but for the Lord. When it came to, you know, being in this role, it was all, first of all, older people. And, you know, my supervisor, a Black woman, and then her boss, a white woman. So I was like, okay, well, at least they're women, right? I love it. and I loved my supervisor, and then she had to leave me. But then we got some new people, but then at the same time, I look all around me, white and black, which that's fine, I love it, but where are my people at? I still don't know where they're at, you know? And it's, I would have ideas, and I was afraid to incorporate them. And then I started working there in January 2022. And there's a lot of Revive trainer here that have seen me be part-time and then now taking over the program, which I'm very proud of. I didn't think that would happen. God really gave that to me. And I took it and I ran with it. There's a difference, right? But I would get so shy. And then I thought about it, and I started hearing, someone else incorporating, Latino trainings and something like that. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I said, hold up, this is my program. If not me, then who? Like that, I need to get out of my own head. I need to really stick up for our people, and it's not just Spanish speaking. I asked our translator, I said, hey, what are we doing? What are the top 5 languages DBHDS is translating stuff into? She says Spanish, Korean, Fasto, and Arabic. I said, we're gonna change all of our stuff and translate it to Spanish, Korean, Fasto, and Arabic. And how do I incorporate that? Like I mentioned earlier, putting together focus groups. I just started that this last fall. First starting with the Spanish-speaking community. I'm not going to change the slides at all because they're already translated. But what I thought is, what we're going to do, guys? We're going to do cultural notes for our trainers. So when they go out there, they have their cultural notes. So some things might be translated very medically, right? They need those notes to say, hey, this is what that means. Just like in English, some words I'm like, what are you talking about? Two medical terms. So that's how I'm starting to incorporate it. I'm very excited, very nervous. I did have to put a pause because I do have another project. I'm a one-woman show. But yes, ma'am. I'll talk to you later about that. No, but yeah, and I'm very grateful. But that's what I'm doing to incorporate, our culture into that.
Hi everyone, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How do you honor Latin values in the work that you do?
Ooh, I think by just being myself. I think I was raised in Richmond. I came to the United States when I was 3 years old, I think. Lived in New York some time, came to Richmond maybe like 2 years later. Been here ever since. Grew up in Southside Richmond. Went to Chesterfield when I was in middle school. That was an experience similar to yours. Had never seen that many white people, guys. Yeah. But moving here and living here, I did grow up around people from my community. I grew up with Dominicans. I only ever knew Dominicans. In school, I encountered different kinds of Hispanics and Latinos. I learned really quickly that I didn't know Spanish like the rest of the kids because I'm Caribbean and we talk different. That was an experience as well. For a long part of my life in middle school, high school, I really wanted to hide who I was. I didn't want to show that I was Dominican because nobody here understood. Everybody was Central American or Mexican, anything but Dominican. And so I really tried to hide who I was. And then as I grew into adulthood, I realized, wait, like I'm actually pretty cool and my culture is really awesome. And it's also not that different from these other Hispanic cultures. So just being myself, my parents always taught me to work with the community and really show up because that's what matters, is you showing up, being there every day, being centered in family. When I encounter a client, I don't try to just like figure out what's wrong with them and help them. I'm trying to figure out what's going on in your life, right? Like I'm trying to address social determinants of health. I'm trying to see what's going on in your entire life that's causing barriers or what's limiting you to having the best life that you can have. If that means helping your kid register for preschool because you've never done that before, right? If that means setting up your trash services because you've never done that either. In your country, you didn't need to do that. I just tried to approach people holistically and understanding that our cultures, while they're different, they're also not extremely different. We have very similar values, and using that to my advantage, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you all for talking about how you connect with clients, but then also how your personal stories have impacted that and how you use that as part of that connection. The next question I have for you all is stigma of mental health services is really prevalent within our Latin communities. What do you believe mental health and recovery organizations can do to better address this and serve Latin clients?
Oh, this is a really important question. Stigma is such a big deal, and I've worked closely with our mental health department, our CHR programs, a lot of our different programs at Health Brigade. I think that we need to meet patients where they are. We need to realize what are their barriers, what's limiting you to getting mental health services. If that's transportation, well, let's do support groups in the community. If it's coming to the support groups because you're afraid that somebody might not speak Spanish, last year for, I'm gonna say fall semester, but for the fall semester, I worked with our mental health group, and I quite literally had to go into little Spanish corner stores and markets and literally say like, hey, like I'm one of you, like I'm doing this just so we could chit chat. Like let's talk about what you're feeling. Bring your family. I'll watch your kids. I sat with kids and colored while like our mental health professional like talked to them, and we didn't pitch it as a support group. It was like let's chit chat and make friends. And we partnered with another local organization, and we said, okay, these people have limited transportation. Let's meet them in the community. We're meeting them for dinner time, so they're like hungry. So let's make sure they get a bag of groceries to take home. They have childcare barriers. Okay, let me make sure I'm watching the kids while our mental health therapist, who's also bilingual and Latina, is serving them in whatever ways they need, right? In these sessions, they express more, well, now I'm late on my utilities. Let's make sure you're connected with a social worker from our team, or me, I'm usually the one who does it, and help you with like a program that can help with that payment plan, right? Like, let's figure out what it is that's limiting you from getting this service.
I mean, ditto. No. On my end, we do a lot of the trainings, right? So we talk about a lot of naloxone. So usually when naloxone's used is because someone has overdose. So it's the after, right? But it's a circle. So now what? And resources. And the way we're gonna start, hopefully, implementing is, letting people know, hey, if this is going on, if it's a family member, friend, or anything that you're close with, let them know we have this and this and this. If it's a stranger and they're still around by the time they can talk to you and whatnot, let them know that there are these services for mental health, because a lot of times that's where it stems from. We talk about trauma and all those things, and it's a coping mechanism for a lot of people. So that's just something that is important, and I'll get your number later. We have to come together as a community to really just say we have this going on, because that's for the most part the root of a lot of our issues that our community has.
How do we combat stigma?
Stigma. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
First of all, is it stigma? Just kidding. Is it really mental health? I mean, that's like me just being like, are you diagnosing, are you labeling something that is different to the clinical aspects that we've been taught, right? Like, for instance, faith is very prominent in the Latino community. How you're saying, si quiere Dios, si Dios quiere, like if God wants, right? Or vaya con Dios, go with God, right? Faith is very, very important. And it's not necessarily faith in like very organized religion or anything. It's even faith in like our ancestors and how we like use some of those practices, like even cooking, and how it could heal your soul. You're not tired, you just need to, te tienes que poner las pilas. Like, you just gotta put on your batteries. But, so like, for me, it's always like, am I approaching this from a clinical, academic very linear approach, or am I not seeing the person for who they are? Now, don't get me wrong, my mom has all the mental health issues in the world, but she refuses to go to therapy. I'm just kidding. Not kidding. Kidding, not kidding, right? But at the same time, you know, there's that compassion of like, man, some traumas are way too hard to talk about, and some of us aren't ready to talk about it. Like, my mom has shared stories about how she tried crossing over 3 times, and one of the times she got caught with my brother breastfeeding him, and ICE back then was nicer and took her to McDonald's and then took her back to Juarez. And then she tried again, because we have resiliency. You can't tell us not to, right? And so, like, she'll share snippets of things like that. I get to fill in now from understanding of, like, everything that comes with on, like, damn, that was rough, right? Like, that was a lot rougher than the emotion that she's putting into. And so, like, okay, well, we're not going to talk about it directly, but I'm going to share about someone who has a similar story, right? When I told her I had ADHD and I was diagnosed, and she's like, oh, there you go again, trying to be like white people. And I'm like, no, Mom, I'm serious. I was like, no, I'm serious, Mom. I have to get medicated, or else I'm going to have all these, like, unfinished projects all over the house, right? All of a sudden, I want to embroider and sew, and I don't even know how to do that. So it's just the way I approach it, and even with the community that I work with, like, I'm very open about my recovery, and even they're like, well, you abuse pills, you weren't an alcoholic, right? And it's this hierarchy of, like, substance misuse, and it's like, dude, we're not talking about that substance. We're talking about the whys. Why was I doing it? Why was I using that? And so then a lot of them are able to relate to that. I just, you know, like the stigma is, it's actually an open door of like, how do you approach it? Like, let's talk about it. Like, what's going on? Why do you say, no traigo nada? I don't have it, there's nothing going wrong with me. But then when you think about it, you're like, okay, how was your day? You know, what music were you listening to? What did you have to eat? And when you approach them from that approach, or like that point of view, like they're able to open up a little bit more.
Wow. It's always food. It's always food. It's always food. I come from New York, and we have a tremendous recovery community that's in Spanish. A tremendous amount of Spanish meetings. We have 3 here in Richmond. And it's just wonderful to take and to see that these 3 groups have 18 meetings a week. And it's fun to meet people that you can relate to, that you look like at these meetings. It's wonderful to meet them on Courthouse Road and spend a Saturday with them at the Latino Mall, which is just walking around and introducing yourself, and they're introducing you to a cousin, and they're introducing you to an uncle. You know, that's how we open up with each other. That's how we meet each other. You know, the young lady said something about meeting people where they are. Well, I have to go out and find them. You know, they're not gonna come to me. I have to have something. I have to have been through something that they're going through for them to identify with me. Because as the wonderful woman from New Mexico just said, hey, there's nothing wrong. That's what everybody tells me. Everyone I'm related to, they could be going through, I mean, their heads could be drilling, and they go, no, todo está bien. No, cógelo suave, tranquilo. You know, that's like That's like, we don't acknowledge something that we walk around with. We hide it. We put it off. We make a good soup. You know, good soup seems to fix everything in the Hispanic community. It just fixes everything. And it's very, very hard to get someone that's even, you know, my sister, I lost my niece 3 years ago. She refuses to talk about it. She's still criticizing herself over her daughter taking and losing her life to this disease. You know, and I just support her. There's nothing she doesn't want to talk about it. And it does not matter what you say, what is behind your name, they do not want to talk about it. So we talk about food. We talk about a good movie. We talk about some way in which someday she'll take and snap and decide that she wants to go to get some help. You know, it's very, very hard to live with people that have grown up under stress. You know, very, very hard, because everything's fine.
Everything's fine. I was thinking about stigma, and I was like thinking about trust. I mean, why would anybody trust us in this position of what seems to be power and authority until, like you were saying, to kind of like realize, hey, I'm with you. I'm here on your level, and being able to share a little bit. Like, first, I noticed that it's almost like if you show me, it sounds sexual, but if you show me yours, then I'll show you mine, kind of thing. So I definitely go in saying, hey, you know, this is my background. This is where I'm coming from. I have no idea what you've been through. Life is stressful. We no longer have, like, my mom grew up in the Philippines where she's surrounded by her family in this neighborhood. We don't have that anymore. There's hardly any multi-generational households anymore. So we're creating our family now. And so I really lean into what are you doing now as far as what your natural supports are. You know, who is it in your life? Who's the first 1, 2, 3 people you go to when you want to celebrate something, when you want to, when you have a worry in your mind? And then what I ask them to do is, I want you to bring them here in this room. So imagine your loved ones here surrounding you. Or imagine, you know, God, as you know, God surrounding and protecting you, so you feel safe enough to even share anything with me. And so there's this kind of understanding with the history of trauma and being able to resonate with that anxiety, how to calm that nervous system first, and realizing that it is a trust issue, and like it's justifiable. So really, kind of like everyone was saying, meeting people where they're at, and just that this is where we're at. And you know, while we're coming in with these tools, I realized that, you know, that, and I even tell them this, you already know what you need to do on some level. I'm just here to kind of be a companion to find out what that is. Whether it is that, like, this knowledge that's already there, whether you want to call it universal intelligence, or if you want to call it Akashic records, or this intuition and knowing from all their ancestry and all this stuff, it's right there. We're just kind of talk a little bit and see if we can find what it is that might help you. That's already there. I'm not really doing anything. And all these like tools we're learning in school, that I learned in school, are what's interesting about EMDR therapy is just walking. Like, that's why I do walking talks. It's like, we already know what we need to do. It's just how to encourage people to get out of it and being able to create that trust. And hopefully, you know, maybe just a little bit of trust happens. And then that's what we can do. That's all we can do. Anyways, that's it.
Yeah, no worries. So I heard themes around how do you meet people where they are, right? How do you understand what are the barriers, right, for Latin folks in accessing services, and how can providers do more to support what is needed, to support their needs? And then another piece around relationship building, right? Which is how do you talk to people about their culture, their food, the things they care about, and how can that help you build relationships? Let's see. So this is a build-off question a little bit. What would you like to share with Latin people about accessing mental health and recovery services?
Like, what would we like to share? Say that again.
It's a broad question, but what would you like to share with Latin people about accessing mental health or recovery services?
I would say to trust us, to trust the people that look like you and are here for you and are showing up. I like to, when I approach clients, I have this logic that I tell a lot of people in our agency, right, who aren't Latino. I share when I became a community health worker, I said, you just have to show up. Like, I'm gonna show up 1 week in this neighborhood in Richmond. Nobody's gonna know who I am. Nobody's gonna look at me. I'm gonna show up another week. They're probably gonna be curious, but they're not gonna talk to me. Week 3, they might be like, what are you doing here? And I'll explain. I'll say, this is Health Brigade. This is what I do. And they'll be like, all right, bye. And they won't talk to me. Week 4, they'll say hello, but they're still not interested. Week 5 goes on, week 6, maybe they'll come back and say, tell me again, I was looking for the service. Can you help with that? And then helping them with that, right? So like, just showing up, us showing up, and then them trusting that we're there to help them and get them what they want and need.
I feel like the question before kind of goes along with this, right? The same thing, the trust. That's very, very important. And as you mentioned before, I forgot what you said that Henri was so excited, that you were like, live it or walk it or something.
I said a lot of
Walk it out. Well, maybe. I don't know. But anyways, they say a lot, you just talk about it. If you talk about something enough around somebody, they're gonna get curious. So whether it's within your own family, your own friends, and letting them know, like, hey, these are there specifically for that. It's specifically for you. It doesn't, you try it and then you don't like it, you just end up doing the same thing you were doing. You're not losing anything. Letting them know that, right? And then half the time when they're like, oh yeah, and then they have more questions, and the consistency is a lot, but just letting people know. I was talking to someone earlier, recovery is not a straight line, and letting them know that too. And I think that goes back to the stigma, because first of all, we don't talk about anything. I didn't know my dad was in jail or rehab until I was a teenager, and he just casually talked about it. I was told as a kid that he was in college the whole time, and that was normal because not a lot of people went to college up in Jersey, in Elizabeth, in the hood. So I was like, wow, so I don't know how long people are supposed to be there for. But we never talk about it. And it's crazy how things are full circle, that now this is my job. And, just telling people, it's okay, trust us. If it don't work, you tell me why, and then we're gonna find something that works for you. Because there's always options. The same way that they say you have to look for multiple therapists, right? Don't give up, because sometimes one might not vibe, right? You just keep going. So I think that's what I would say.
One of my favorite words in Spanish is desahogar, because it literally means to undrown yourself. And like, I tell people, like, come, desahogate, like, undrown yourself with me. It's okay. Like, let's just talk about it. Like, I'm not gonna judge unless you want me to, because I'm really good at that. Just kidding. But like, right, like you're saying, we don't talk about it. And so we end up drowning ourselves in that sorrow and that sadness. One thing I love about my mom, and I talk a lot about her because, oh my God, she's the reason I'm here. she talked a lot about her dad and how much she missed him. And so seeing her grieve her dad as I was growing up allowed me to have a roadmap for how I grieve my husband, my own dad, and like all these other, like my father-in-law, and being willing to not drown myself in that grief, right? Like just seeing how open she was about it. And now that I work a lot with the community, the Latino community, like I see how special that is. My dad, on the other hand, was no traigo nada, I'm okay, there's nothing going on. And he had a fascinating life, but refused to talk about it. And so for me, it's always, tell me about your life. Like, you are fascinating, right? Like, maybe because I'm an extrovert, I love to hear people's story and how did that feel and how did that work. I worked at a shelter for asylum seekers for a while, and oh man, going home afterwards was like, I need to change clothes, I need to take a shower, I need to remove this energy because I feel it, I understand their pain, and at the same time, if I don't keep my own compassion in check, I will overdo it and I will not have anything left for them. And a lot of the times we are overly compassionate where we want to do more for others than they're willing to do for themselves. And so for me, it has been a lot of that checking in, checking where I'm at, am I drowning myself to help others? And so a lot of that is, once again, it's how I lead by example, who I am, my intentions. I've had cousins reach out to me and they're like, hey, I know you're in recovery. What meetings can I go to? And I'm like, yes, I told you. It's a family disease. Just kidding. But just telling them, like leading by example, and sometimes you get all like, okay, here it comes. But even that, it's just, I have an amazing life, and it's by proof that like I'm trusting the process and I'm not drowning in it. And so for me, that's that really openness approach to it.
Thank you. It's never in the saying, it's always in the doing. It's being continuous with people. It's going to a party that they're going to, and then they realize that, even when their father says, oh, no, it's a little bit of wine is, no. I'll stick with the diet soda, I'll stick with this. See, it's letting people know that you're not better than them. You've just found a solution that they can find. Because yes, we listen, but it's also in taking and being there and being continuous. In the recovery community, we like to say authentic, being your authentic self over and over again. It's just holding the hand of another human being the same way that my hand was held when I came into this life. It's believing in something that I never ever believed in, and trying to let people know that the same way that God of my understanding did it for me, he can do it for you. See, and if I'm continuous, if I say that I'm going to go to a meeting with you, I'm there 15 minutes before I tell you. See, I don't step back from responsibility. I step to responsibility. I pray for my sister that someday she'll talk, but I don't pester her, because that's what everyone else does. It's in being able to take and live this life of quietness and tranquility, and know that God's gonna put people in your life that you can help. Just know it. It's the greatest feeling in the world when you put the key in and the tumblers fall and this door opens to this life that you never knew existed. It's an unbelievable, I get goosebumps. It's an unbelievable feeling to live free. This is the hardest life that I've ever lived. To live free. To be authentic. It's a wonderful life. And every time I go to anywhere, that's what I bring with me. Is if it could happen for me, it could happen for you.
Thank you. Good. So I was looking around the room and I was thinking, like, what would be helpful? Maybe not being integrated as much in the communities and the Latina communities, and how you can be the most helpful. And I was thinking, just love. Like, I was just thinking if we could just lead with love, people can feel it when you love them, and the language barrier. So, like, letting people know, hey, I have these services, and instead of just handing them the phone number, would you like me to call right now? Because I know our time is precious, right? So can we call right now? Would that be okay with you to see about setting an appointment, or let me know when you're ready? But because oftentimes people pick up and they always speak is English. So then they just forget, I'm not gonna do it. So I was just thinking, like, how, we have these lists of services. Where would you like to start, if anything? Where do you feel the most open to some of these services that you're suggesting? And, like, being able to, like, just do, like, what you were talking about earlier, just the practical stuff with folks, that's the hardest part. Like, when you're trying to go to the gym, you're just like, oh my God. And you're like, oh, I don't even know if I want to go. It's just someone, like, knowing that you're going to meet someone there, and it's just getting to that first step. And if someone is depressed, anxious, whatever, doesn't know the language, of course they're not going to go do it. So asking how you can help, and obviously not overstepping boundaries and like doing too much. And at the same time, if there's love, like, you're starting with love and care, they feel it. And so they're like, okay. And even if they don't show up to the appointment, or you have to do it again, always making sure the next session you're following up, like, hey, what did you think about those things? I didn't do any of it. Okay, like you said earlier, tweak it. Like, how can we make it yours? And I think that's one of the biggest things is when someone is learning to access, to kind of help move along with them and kind of get that current going. But I was just thinking about that in particular. Thanks I love listening to you all.
Yeah, thank you all so much. We have time for maybe one question from the audience. Or there's him.
So no.
Oh, we got a couple hands back there.
I don't want to have a question, but now the month of May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and I would like to take this opportunity to applaud you all. I think you've done an outstanding job in your presentation.
Do we have a question? Thank you for that comment.
If anyone wants to be trained in Revive, just putting that plug out there.
In that case, if anybody needs translation services.
Oh, Lily definitely talked to us, yeah.
Also, what else do you guys need? Just
No, I was just going to ask. I know I met you at the ACM training a couple weeks, months ago. So hi again. Have you done Revive training strictly for Spanish-speaking populations here in the Richmond area? Or I know since you're training the trainers, have your trainers trained people who are Spanish-speaking only?
Yes. Not as often, again, because there is a lot of like cultural, right, stigma, kind of like, well, I'm not gonna go, right? You kind of, I hate saying this, but you kind of have to trick them. You know, like I love what you said that you offer. I'll watch your kids. Like I think a lot of people forget that we move as families.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. So I haven't done any strictly in Spanish. I haven't because I'm more behind the scenes. But there are trainers in the area that do it, and then especially in Nova, there's a lot. But I'm trying to recruit more, and yeah, just contact me if you need someone.
If everyone can give a big hand to all our panelists. Okay.
One of my questions is how, with everything that's going on in the Hispanic culture, how has it affected you all in reference to outreach and ISIS and all of that, you know, and recovery? I would like to know how has that been?
I had a whole meltdown. I remember just sitting on the couch and just being like, oh my God. Yeah, I had to turn it off. Yeah, and I texted my clinical supervisor and I was like, okay, if I have to go to Mexico, can I finish my master's in Mexico? Like, I'm already going, and this is somebody who was born and raised here, right? Like, imagine somebody who is undocumented, which are like the majority of my family. And so I don't know about you guys, but I know I sense this heaviness, right? And this retrieval of like, we're not so outside, we gotta move in and underground. And so when you understand that, you learn how to navigate their communities. And like you're saying, consistently showing up, being part of, like you can't just say, hey, look, I have this program for you. Take a look, I'll see you later. It's more of, look, I get it, man, we're here. Who else can I partner with that you already have trust with that we can bring in? There was something else. Also, like, it's understanding that their fear is legit and acknowledging it and being like, this is real. I get it. There's nothing I can do to support you, like, in fixing the problem, but we can do everything else around it. And also we love chismear, right? Like gossip is our jam. Yep. Like I love to know random gossip about the Wendy's employee who is mad that the Frosty machine doesn't work. Why do I need to know that? Because I'm Latina. I just love the chisme, right? Like my mom's neighbor. Why is his dog always barking? I don't know. But when we have those networks, we are able to hand off each other providers that we all trust within ourselves. Oh, she helped me with connecting me with the waste management people. Go to her. She knows what she's doing because she was able to do it for me. Or a banker, right? Or they were able to get me a mortgage. Go with her. And so that is how you build that trust. And acknowledging that there is a fear, a legit fear, does a lot to get that trust in.
Just really quick, I know we're over time. I would say, especially with the initiative that I'm trying to work on, and we've talked about it a lot, it's just going to where they already feel safe. There's no need to get a whole new spa or whatever. Again, we're here to serve, and I don't know how many times we're gonna say this. Meet them where they're at, but especially now, not everyone wants to congregate anymore, unfortunately, because things are happening. I was born and raised here. My mom was born and raised. My grandparents were the ones that immigrated. Why do I walk around with my birth certificate in my backpack? It's funny, but it's sad, So that's just meet them where they already feel safe. That's all I have to say.
Change my last name.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you to our panelists.